right. So I'm tapping in with another video, and I hope what I want to say is I have some more thoughts about paternalism, and I'm not saying paternalism is bad outright, because some things are human, some things are, I think nothing is defined, nothing is settled, nothing is spoken for, but we have been doing things we've been existing a long while. So like I've put in other videos that I don't think that that our lungs are part of our digestive system. So when people take pulls of different substances, like say marijuana, like something like that, I'm acting like I'm eating something with my lungs, but that's not actually what my lungs are. But if I were to take it through my stomach, then it would hit my bloodstream the way that the body has been functioning. So it's not that the body is limited to, so most things as we exist I think are better for us when they hit the bloodstream, having come through the digestive tract. That doesn't mean that's the only way that can happen, but that's the way that we're in the habit of existing over eons. So when a child defers to their parent, like they trust their parent, something's called implicit. When you trust something past your own better judgment, your own judgment, when you trust something for the sake of trust past your own judgment, that's implicit. So some people would have implicit faith in their partner, and some people would have implicit faith in their parent. Most people at a young age would have implicit faith in their parents. There's a story called Hansel and Gretel that's actually about that. That might be a deeper story than people could appreciate on the surface. And it's a story about like a boy and a girl that were going on a trip through the woods with their parents, and they're going deep into the woods. And the boy loved his sister, and he just had a hunch that he just didn't take his parents on face value, his own parents. He didn't take their ass on face value. So as they're going through the woods, he was like leaving little clues and like breadcrumb. And then sure enough, his parents flaked on them in the middle of the wilderness. I can't remember with the original story if they had intended to desert them, or if they were that self-centered that they went off and did something stupid to leave their own children in the forest. But that's what the story is about. And then Hansel was able to get himself and his sister back to safety because he had doubted his own parents. So that's an example of that might be a warning. Some stories have warnings in them for life, and that might be actually a warning about paternalism, is what the deeper message of that fable or that story might be. But the reason that a young person would trust their parents implicitly might be habit, is that's how humans have been existing over eons, and it has worked and served a purpose for a long point. And I'm not saying that any of that needs to or has to change. However, the society that we live in is that it's plural. So that means that you have different faiths, different professions, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, so many different ways of appreciating what it is to exist. Yet we're unified by self-interest and profit. That's what gets people. Now that's deep, because if you've really looked into things like peace, or even like progress, like real human progress, a lot of people would feel, and I wouldn't be one to think otherwise with my current background or scope of understanding, is that you can sing Kumbaya, you can love people, you can do right by people, but until we have an economic parity, that means like sameness, until we're on the same economic footing, when we're on the same economic footing and we have reciprocity in dealing equity, that's when you're actually gonna have peace. Because you're just to incline ourselves as peaceful is not gonna get it. There has to actually be an economic component to it. That's the only way people are gonna feel on a level of respect, is when the economics are there. But then that begs the question is, so what is, but because we're still interdependent, because this life, this reality is interdependent. It's not independent, because if it were independent, it would break down and be futile. You can't get too far being independent. So I'm in a city right now, and I'm independent. How independent can I be if I can't use a bathroom when I'm out working somewhere? I would that would take maintenance, labor, all the entrepreneurship, deep work and sacrifice that would go into having an establishment viable, doors open, access to bathroom, plumbing good to go. That takes a lot of contribution. So independent for independent is not independent. Even if you were doing like bushcraft and you were fashioning existence in the middle of nature, that might be about as close as you can get to independent, but you would still need tools that had been fashioned somewhere. You would still need assistance. Were you even in the elements of nature? As I doubt that a person could walk into nature and fashion in existence indefinitely without some type of oversight or at least touching base with civilization at some point. Even if they could do so without touching civilization, they would have needed training and understanding going into that situation that would have required support of other people, even if it were just their parents feeding them to grow up. You would still need support. So none of us are independent. Codependent is a problem and will amount to brutality and suffering. Inexpressible suffering is an imminent aftermath and attendant of codependence. But interdependence is where life is and actually where freedom and viability is. According to Arthur Avalon, no locus of agency, that is, no center of perception and action in the universe, and there are a multitude. Just like, so you have like the separation of powers in the Constitution, like the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Life itself has an infinite. Even the word infinite is redundant because that implies a limit. That sounds settled and decided for. There is an unexpressible divergence and swath and multitude of centers of agency and perception in the universe, going from all different grades, from bacteria, mineral, near, some would say maybe it could be finer. I can't speak on those terms, all the way up to star systems and planets and galaxies. Is that these are different locus of perception and agency. So if you're saying like the great one that has all power, that's a lot of power, because that's just a lot. That's a lot for one thing. But it can be said that we are one while existing as many, and as such we form balance. But it's with many multitude of agencies of locus and perception. But none of them are completely free, and none of them are completely bound. But both freedom and structure, or freedom and binding, is relative to position, station, and function, and is also checked at all points. So the experience of freedom, if there is any experience of freedom to be had, is in interdependence, that is harmony. When things are in harmony, that is near about the closest we're going to taste of freedom. Maybe the only thing that would be greater than harmony and what is expressed in harmony is meaning. Meaning is yet free. That's the only thing free. Maybe I'll say that with this video. The only thing that is free is meaning. So if another person is expressing meaning, the meaning of meaning for another person, defining meaning for another person, whether that is of their identity and therefore their scope of agency by means of their confidence and doubt, that's a function of their identity. It's still the meaning that's deeper. And so the only thing that is free is just the fact that meaning is free to be defined and undefined and redefined and half defined and dispensed with at all points. And maybe it's to the greater when it's dispensed with. But the meaning is the only thing that will be free, because so like you imagine some slaves in a field singing songs about Jesus. Now they weren't being offered education and literacy, so they may not have had a different word to express certain ideas than the word Jesus. But that would be your only freedom in that type of binding, of labor, of punishment. What's egregious about that form of punishment, that is abuse, that is trauma, is that a lot of times you didn't actually bring it on yourself. So you're being brutalized when you hadn't gotten to do anything wrong. But all that would be free to you is meaning, a defined meaning, and the word that would be available for the slaves would be Jesus. But that's actually what freedom is right there. It's just the meaning beyond our experience, within our experience and beyond our experience, meaning the freedom and prerogative to define it and experience it and understand it and share it, that's freedom. That's the closer we're getting.